So in this extremely high quality and highly professional production, I want to share with you some advice or insight or just random words strung together as sentences for people who maybe feel lost or perhaps younger people who are trying to decide what direction to take their life in and don't really know what to do, which both things are quite common. Both things I've experienced very deeply from a long time and even still in present moment. So yeah, I've gotten this question quite a few times, so I thought why not just rant for a period of time and hopefully answer it in some way. So the main idea and the main thing that I would say is to basically find something or some things that you actually enjoy and then learn all that you can about them and get good at it. Develop some skill, develop some value within that thing. And it doesn't necessarily have to be like a thing, like one thing, like I know this is like the one thing that I have to do, because this is can sometimes be really confusing when we read self-help or success stuff or kind of new agey kind of advice. It's like, oh, you just have to find your calling, you have to find your purpose, you have to find your passion, you have to find all these things, and when you do that, everything will be better and great and fine. And there's some truth to that, but it's mostly not true. Because we really don't, there's really not a purpose. Like, we don't have a single defining one thing that we're supposed to have to do, and if we don't do it, we're a failure. Like, that's not real. That's a very romantic, Victorian, Puritan, sort of Christian, naive idea, and really limited understanding of life and our roles here as humans. That's not really, it's not real. Because even if we find the thing that we like to do, or the things, and we get good at them, no matter how good we get, it's not necessarily going to be easy. It's not necessarily just going to be a cakewalk. It's probably going to be a fucking pain in the ass. And that's just an important thing to really wrap our heads around, because we can say, oh, well, I like this thing and I'm doing it, or I'm trying to do this project, but I'm just meeting all this resistance. Maybe it's not the right thing. Maybe I shouldn't do it. Which perhaps there is some truth to that. And really the underlying idea is intelligence, is awareness, is reflection, and not just blind dogma. Is on one hand developing ourselves, developing our own skill sets, developing our own awareness, our own capacities, our own intelligence. Because no matter what we enter into in our lives, the common thread and the number one thing that's found in every single situation that we find ourselves in is ourself. So if we lack skill, if we lack adaptability, if we lack awareness, or our life is usurped and consumed by a single agenda that we're trying to force on everyone and everything, then it's going to obviously limit our experience and our capacity as humans. And if we look at things from ancient times, if we look whether it's Qigong or Kung Fu or even some yogic and meditation systems, really what the words and the practices are about is actually what I'm talking about is like developing skill for life. Developing capacities for discernment, capacities for enjoyment, capacities for reflection and critical thought. And these are all things which our world tries to beat out of us. Education system, it does not really welcome it. Or obviously our government, our culture, our society does not really welcome it. And then religion and spirituality tend to really get rid of that stuff as well. So really, we have to understand the main idea, we're not really going to know most of the time. We're probably just going to be fumbling through the dark and fumbling one thing to the other, which we can do that in an intelligent way, we can do that in a stupid way. Because there's different forms of stupidity. There's stupidity which doesn't know that it's stupid and actually maybe thinks it's quite the other. Then there's stupidity which realizes, you know what, I don't know. And I'm okay with that. I'm okay with not knowing. I'm okay with understanding the context and the situation that I'm in and the natural limitations that it has, and starting to work within that and understand what that actually is, and being okay with that stupidity, with that I don't know, and trying to learn more and experience more and understand the real context of what that I don't know really is about. So, without going into a huge philosophical discussion, basically what I'm trying to say is find things that you like, find things that you enjoy, and put your time and energy into that. And I don't mean enjoy like exaggerated, like they make you ecstatic and they make you want to just like trip balls and like have orgasms and have ecstatic transcendental states of consciousness. Just simple enjoyment. And sometimes the best way to learn that is you just learn what you don't like. Because if you only learn from yourself, that's pretty stupid. If you only learn from the people that you like or the people that you put on a pedestal, that's also stupid. And if you only learn from the things that you like and the situations that you like, that's very stupid. Because a lot of life is honestly going to be things you don't like. It's going to be people you don't want to deal with. It's going to be situations that aren't for you. And if we're not clear to understand and have the developed capacity to firmly say no, then we're not really very developed as a human being. We're a bit more ghost-like. We're a bit more demonic. We're a bit less embodied. And that's a big self-esteem kind of issue. That's a big conditioning thing because we're afraid to get clear on those things. We're afraid to offend people or hurt people's feelings, or what will people think and what will people do. And that's a lot of times why we don't actually pursue things that we enjoy, is for these fears, for these things. And the reality is no one gives a shit, really. Like, even if someone hates you and you offend them, within a short period of time, they're going to be on to something else, and they're going to completely have forgotten about the situation. Like, you're not that important. I'm not that important. Like, none of us are that important. We're all kind of on our own trip. We're on our own little bubbles, our own little holodeck up here that we're interpreting reality. And it's really not that big of a deal, but we all have that fear. I have that fear still. I've made thousands of videos and I still have the fear. I still push through it. I still push myself, and I still want to grow even after however many years of doing this. It's just like I'm still just beginning, because it's the same stuff, and it never goes away. There's no perfect situation. There's no ideal thing. That's all not real. Because I can tell you from being in business for however many years I've been in business, it gets easier, it gets harder. Like, some things are great, some things are so fucking annoying. And you're still always growing. You still have to be growing, because that's just kind of part of being alive. Like, that's just naturally what we do. That's sort of by definition what separates living from dead. So following those things and really developing a skill and having the wherewithal to invest that time and energy in ourselves, and also to not waste our time and energy trying to pull other people along with us, trying to help or save or improve other people, or think it's our job or duty to do that. And I can tell you that's cost me a lot of money. It's cost me a lot of time and energy and stress, believing in that nonsense and wasting a lot of my life and energy in doing it. Because if you make that decision to get really clear in what you want to do, and you dedicate yourself to that, like, people will appear to be supportive, but it will also bring out jealousy in people, envy. People want to tear you down. People want to slow you down. People want to do all these things, whether they consciously realize it or not, whether that's really the dynamic they're wanting to create or not. It often can play out like that, and it can be a huge drain. And if you read any book of any person who's done anything at really any scale of success beyond just a 40-hour work week, it's a common thread which shows up. And even just outside of that context, if you try to do anything at all within our world that is kind of outside of the norm, it's going to meet resistance because that's kind of just life in a way. And we have to actually develop some awareness about that. But then also the awareness, the intelligence to understand, is that resistance just basically our own stupidity? Like, because this is like not the right thing for us to do. Like, for example, right now, I could say all of this shit, and then I could be like, I really like basketball. Like, I just really like it. And then maybe I want to dedicate my life to being a basketball player, but I'm going to meet resistance. Then I hear this video and I'm like, well, resistance is just part of it. And then all my friends are like, dude, that's pretty stupid. Like, why would you do that? You're 30 whatever years old, you're 5'9", like, you haven't played basketball in years. And then you hear, oh, that's just resistance. You're just trying to hold me back because I'm trying to do this different thing. But in reality, it's stupid. Like, yeah, maybe I could dedicate a lot of my 8 hours a day to playing basketball. Maybe I'd get really good. But, I mean, what's the fruition of that? How, like, appropriate is that for me? How, like, fulfilling is that going to really be? So it takes some intelligence, it takes some wherewithal to not just take these things at face value and think that there's some standard generic thing that if we just follow, then everything will be okay and life will just give us gold, because that's not really true. And if you read biographies or stories of people, you can see that sometimes the people that are the most successful have had to deal with the worst shit, like the worst. And that's within any context, whether they're a martial arts person or an entrepreneur. It's not necessarily all fairy tales. Even when they achieve success, it's not necessarily fairy tales. So, but there's a different feeling quality to it when you're actually doing something you really love, something you really enjoy, something that inspires you, something that motivates you, something that activates you, and causes you to break out of kind of your own standardization. So those are really the two main things that I wanted to share. And I heard that piece of advice probably when I was in high school, and it was just basically, follow your curiosity, follow what excites you, follow what gives you passion. And I sort of just kind of went with that, and it led me down some dead ends, it led me down some mistakes, and led me down a lot of crazy places, but also led to things which were quite enjoyable and rewarding. So you just never really know. But it's just being open and flexible and actually alive. Say, yeah, I'll try this. Yeah, I'll do that. I'll learn about this. And that to give you some examples in my own life, in high school and early college, I worked at a library. So what I would do is just read just about anything and everything that somewhat interested me, whether that was yoga books or quantum physics, quantum mechanics, physics magazines, science magazines, biographies of musicians, biographies of entrepreneurs, biographies of comedians, books about herbalism, books about food nutrition. And then also, those are things that I was interested in, but then also branching out and being like, what are things I just don't give a shit about? And just let me like take a look at this and see like what's really like the deal. And in my mind, I was more so like, well, what is their kind of operating system? What is their worldview? What is their paradigm? What assumptions are they operating under? And are these the same and or different than the ones that I'm kind of into? And I'm not spending a lot of time and energy, but just having a little bit of the exposure for things that I didn't really care about, or things maybe I just flat out disagreed with. Maybe I'm really into meditation or Zen, and I'm reading this like Christian book and I don't care about it at all. But at least being able to understand where they're coming from. And then when I was in college, I went to it wasn't a Christian university, but it fucking may as well have been, because that's everyone that went there was within that worldview, just because of the geographical location that it was. So, I would take philosophy classes, and of course the teacher is like a Christian, and everyone is a Christian, but they're not, but they are, but it's this weird shit. And then I'm just like some long-haired hippie, interested in like transcendental mystical states of consciousness and raw food and craziness. But because of this background, I could have a conversation with these people and not offend them. Not that they really even understood what I was saying at all, but it was just being in a position to say, well, let me learn like where they're coming from. Let me like understand what their trip is really all about. And even till this day, I can kind of do that. Like I've had examples of people hanging out with them and they like think I'm a thing. They assume I'm a thing based on the way that I'm talking to them, and then I'm actually not. So like talk to people and be like, "Oh, you're an acupuncturist, right?" No, but I'm talking to them as if I were, or other random examples of things. Because you're just out sometimes and people will just randomly talk to you. But it's really developing some capacity to really understand these varying things and navigate them and be able to communicate to them, which is very useful in this world because we all think our worldviews are like important. We all think they're unique. And it's really easy to get consumed and sucked down into that, and that's kind of very stupid to do. So that's kind of what I did, and it was pretty helpful and pretty impactful. I mean, still to this day, like largely people don't understand what I'm talking about. Um, it's like people make a comment about chemistry, and then I'll talk about, well, that's just sort of like the presupposition that's largely unproven about materialism and objectivity and creationism. And they're like, huh? So that's like what I'm talking about as far as like developing a different understanding. But it's also like that's just the way my brain works naturally and has since like a young age, whether I knew it or not. So it's a matter of finding out for you, how do you work? It might not even be anything brain. It could just be maybe you're like really good at just dancing. You're really good at the whole feeling state, the feeling quality of things and intellectual mental stuff, analyzing philosophies you don't give a fuck about, and that doesn't matter. It's fine, like, because that's your deal. That's what you're good at. So that's what you like want to follow, or what your passion, where it is. And what I'm saying is applicable to anyone really at any time. And even in my own life, I have these experiences and I'm doing these things, but I still have times or I had times in the last few years where I felt lost. I felt like, what am I doing? Like, what am I going to do? I feel stuck. And it's just coming back to the same basic fundamentals and foundations. And even on a regular basis, still just checking in with those things. Because, I mean, I don't know, really, why else are you going to be alive? And then talking about money, because that's a huge piece of this. It's just basically understanding money as a transference of energy, but really a transference of value. Meaning if you have no skills, you have no information, you have nothing to offer people, then what are they gonna give you, Like what are they gonna give you? What value are you going to exchange? And then understand like if you want money from someone for value, like you need to deliver 5-10x of what they're paying you. Just like, because I have people that I've worked with and, they charge $100 an hour, which is like a bargain in my mind, like for what they do and for what you get out of it. Huge bargain because, like, for example, if you can save someone time and energy in their life, like you can't really put a dollar value on that, like, because that's your life. And if you could bypass a disaster or bypass some crazy event in your life, like what is that? What is that worth to you? You just got this whole other thing. So that's when it becomes a whole different thing. But it's also just understanding the principle of giving value to people and having that state of awareness of being in the world, of just trying to create value and add value where and when it's appropriate. And I don't mean being some kind of like asshole that feels like they have to force things on people, because that's like if someone's asking, then you don't necessarily have the right to sell. But anyways, kind of a long-winded idea, and I just really wanted to jam on those those few concepts because they're really core. And it's just a matter of finding out what it is for you, what works for you, and really getting clear on your own agendas, your own motivations. Are you doing, and why are you doing it? Why are you doing it really? And getting in touch with your own level of, now I'm going to get kind of like a little bit intense and deep, but this is really important and can save you time and energy and money. It's just getting in touch with your own self-deception, because I absolutely know for a fact that you're doing it because everyone is doing it. I mean, even to this video, like I'm deceiving myself to a degree, and I believe in myself enough to take the time and the energy to make the video and put it on the internet for all of time and for all of people to see. So I have to like deceive myself a little bit and be like, yeah, this is important, this is helpful, this is whatever. Because to the vast majority of people, this might be just a complete waste of time. But there might be a small percentage of people who hear it and it's the right time and it clicks and it's important. So how do I really know? I don't. So I have to kind of bullshit myself a little bit. I had to bullshit myself for 6 years to believe that, oh yeah, you're important enough, you're like whatever enough to like do this thing. So we all do it to a degree, whether how nefarious that is. And even in my own self-deception is having a period of time of being like, maybe I am really smart, maybe I am really all these things, maybe I am special, maybe I am blah blah blah, just stupid ridiculous things which I had believed in for a while and kind of really got distracted. That's like not necessarily useful self-deception, but also what I'm trying to say is we all do it, and it can be benign or it can be quite malicious. We could get motivated to do something, but our motivation is just to prove everyone wrong, or to say fuck you to someone, or to prove something to ourselves. Oh, I need to do this so I'm good enough. I need to do this and then maybe people will love me. Or like I hate all these people so I have to do this other thing. And like just getting clear on this, because especially in business, especially in relationships in general, like if you can come from a more honest and real and like transparent place, then it's typically going to be a bit easier, smoother for everyone involved, a bit cleaner of a negotiation, and less bullshit, less, less like deception. You're more honest with yourself, so you can be more honest with other people. Everyone kind of likes that, and if they don't, they're probably not someone you want to deal with anyways. So it just tends to be a great thing to do in life, in business, in your own whatever. But it also just takes time, and it's never done, because that's just kind of often the nature of our mind. It just wants to continually add layers about what experience means and what things mean, and oh, well, this happened and I did it, so it must mean this and it must mean that, or I did this and this didn't happen, so it must mean all these things. And it's just not that efficient and not necessarily that true. So anyways, hopefully this is helpful in some fashion. If not, whatever. I'll talk to you soon.